Do you ever wonder how things would have turned out if you had made just one different choice? I asked myself this question as I stepped off the plane, the humid air of the city hitting me like a forgotten memory. The others were already here, waiting in a place that felt as foreign as it did familiar. We hadn't all been together in years, and now, in the midst of our own personal crossroads, we'd chosen the city alive with color and chaos for our reunion. The festival was in full swing when I arrived. The streets were awash with vibrant hues, music echoing through narrow alleys, and the scent of exotic foods blending into an intoxicating aroma. It was like stepping into another world, one that promised escape from the worries we'd left behind at home. I spotted them before they saw me. Marie, with her camera slung around her neck, her eyes scanning every detail for the perfect shot. She'd been the dreamer, the one who always talked about seeing the world, capturing it through her lens. But something about the way she carried herself now, a certain heaviness in her shoulders, made me wonder if she'd found what she was looking for. Next to her was Sam, his laughter as infectious as ever, but with a hint of something else beneath it. He'd been the life of the party, the one who could make anything fun, but now, there was a nervous energy to him, like he was trying too hard to convince himself that everything was still as it had always been. Then there was Luke, standing a bit apart from the others, his eyes distant, like he was already a world away. He was the one who had it all figured out, or so we'd thought. But the messages we'd exchanged leading up to this trip hinted at something else, an uncertainty that hadn't been there before. And me? I was here because I didn't know where else to go. The plans I'd made, the life I thought I'd wanted, had crumbled around me, and now it was at a loss. This reunion, this festival, felt like a last-ditch effort to find some clarity, some direction. When they finally saw me, the smiles were real, and for a moment, it was like no time had passed at all. We hugged, we laughed, and we fell into step like we always had. But there was an undercurrent to it all, a sense that we were each holding something back, our unspoken fears and doubts hovering just beneath the surface. The first night was a blur of sights and sounds. We wandered through markets, sampling foods that were as foreign to us as the language spoken around us. We danced in the streets to music that made our hearts race, the beats syncing with the pulse of the city. For a while, we could pretend that everything was fine, that we were the same people we'd always been. But the city had a way of drawing things out of you. The next day, as we walked along the river, the conversation turned to the lives we'd left behind. Marie talked about her photography, how it had taken her to incredible places, but now she was tired. I thought I'd find myself out there, she admitted, her voice barely audible over the sound of the water. But the more I see, the more lost I feel. Jim chimed in, his usual bravado slipping. I'm stuck, you know. I've got this great job, a nice place, but it all feels so empty, like I'm living someone else's life. Luke didn't say much, just listened, his gaze fixed on the horizon. When we pressed him, he simply shrugged. I'm not sure what I want anymore, he finally confessed. I had a plan, but now, everything feels uncertain. As the days passed, the festival continued to swirl around us, a riot of color and culture that contrasted sharply with the confusion we were each grappling with. We found ourselves drifting into deeper conversations, the kind we used to avoid. Old conflicts resurfaced, long-buried resentments bubbling up as we confronted not just the city, but each other. On the third night, after too many drinks at a makeshift bar, it all came to a head. Words were exchanged, angry, hurtful ones that we couldn't take back. Sam accused Marie of abandoning them, of choosing her dreams over her friends. Marie shot back that Sam was too afraid to chase anything real, that he was stuck because he wanted to be. Luke tried to play peacemaker, but when I called him out for always trying to stay above the fray, he snapped, revealing a bitterness we hadn't seen before. It was a mess, the kind that leaves you raw and unsure if you'll ever be able to put the pieces back together. We went our separate ways that night, each retreating to our corners of the city, lost in our thoughts. The next morning, the city seemed different, quieter somehow, as if it was giving us space to sort through our tangled emotions. We met up again, hesitant, but knowing that we couldn't just leave things as they were. The festival was still going on around us, but it felt like a backdrop now. A reminder that life was moving on whether we were ready or not. We talked, really talked this time. About the choices we'd made, the fears that were holding us back, the futures we were afraid to face. It wasn't easy, but it was honest, and in that honesty, we started to find a way forward. By the time the festival was drawing to a close, something had shifted between us. We weren't the same people who had arrived here, full of uncertainty and unspoken tensions. We were still at our crossroads, but now we had a better sense of the paths we might take. And even if we didn't have all the answers, at least we had each other to help figure things out. On the last night, as fireworks lit up the sky and the city hummed with the energy of celebration, we stood together, watching the colors explode above us. There was a sense of closure, but also of something new beginning. We didn't know what the future held, but we knew we'd face it together, no matter where our paths took us. As the festival faded into the night, I found myself asking a different question. What happens now? I didn't have the answer, but for the first time in a long while, that felt okay. We had come to the city to escape, but we were leaving with something far more valuable: a renewed sense of who we were, and a deeper connection to the friends who had always been by our side, even when we'd lost sight of that fact. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching.